Have migrants, says Human Rights Watch, who face intimidation and violence at the hands of employers, supervisors, sponsors, police and security forces.
These are, I would say, cases where employers, even Western employers in Dubai, were bankrupted and left.
And diplomatic representatives who visited camps here and found the majority of unskilled laborers living in cramped, dirty, hazardous conditions without running water, electricity or adequate food.
In Qatar, you mean, or in the region?
Yes.
I haven't heard that report. I would be happy to.
It's a State Department report. It was issued in March this year.
But and
you're saying they got it wrong.
Let me speak, please. If you look at the laws, as we speak, there is a conference we just finished in Qatar on labor protection. The laws have been really very strict on their civil liberty or whatever, or on their, I would say, human rights issues. We have three bodies at least in Qatar. We have the Labor Ministry, we have the Human Rights Committee, and we have another one, I really don't recall it now.
I'm glad you mentioned the Labour Conference, because do you know what the head of Jordan's Labour Union said at this conference? He said, I believe the main reason behind the rising number of Asians working in the Gulf region is the fact that violating the rights of this group is easier. We have to give them their rights first before thinking of replacing them with Arabs.
Tim, can I answer?
Was he wrong?
Can you allow me to? I'll tell you honestly. Those people, really, they are the most unskilled laborers who come to the Gulf.
So it's okay to mistreat them?
No. Let me finish, please. They come here, okay, and they enjoy an opportunity to work under their government's approval, who look at each contract and approve it. These contracts now are registered and protected by the law of the land here. If you see demonstrations of labor in front of the Human Rights Committee or that, the owners will be taken to the public prosecutor. These are the commitment is there.
All right.
What I would say, everybody is committed to rectify it. But if there are abuses, there will always be abuses, unfortunately, which I admit. I don't say they are not, but they are trying to solve
Sheikh Mohamed, thank you very much indeed. Now please let me ask Mansoor Al-Jamri to speak for the motion.
Well, I support this motion that Gulf states value profit more than people for a basic reason that the Gulf government's philosophy is based on the availability of funds that are generated from the oil wealth, that they use this fund in a way to, instead of trickling it down to the people, they use it either to silence the elite or to bypass their citizens and ignore their political rights, or to import people from sub-Indian continent and abuse their rights. And therefore, human beings are being used as a means to generate a profit. This we witness from the fact that since 2000 up until now, we have had 5% in real terms growth. But the money has been pumped, 70% of the money that we have is being pumped in the real estate. And the real estate creates a fictitious image of prosperity. But we do not realize that I have seen myself that these foreign workers live in conditions that cats and dogs will not accept, that these people are treated and abused. Not only that, they are being used to suppress the political rights of the citizens. We have more than half of the population are waiting for residential units since 1992. At the same time, we witness the construction of 5 luxury cities, all designated for the super rich as a second home or as a weekend home. I understand that the investment cities will generate profit for the few, but half of the population will have to wait. Human beings can never be used for profit. Right. They are not a means. They are the end of any human endeavor.
Mansoor Al-Jamri, thank you very much. If people are not being valued and they're as unhappy as you say, why are they so optimistic about the future? Why do 65% of Saudi youth, according to an American poll, 50% in the Emirates, feel that their country is on the right track? That's a considerably higher proportion than feel the same way in Western countries.
I believe if you ask that the people, when they think that the state will continue to be a provider for them, to quieten them. We have, if you ask Kuwaitis expect to be employed in government sectors.
Yeah, but they are providing for them. Look at the charities now set up to help people, like Qatar Charity, for instance. Look at the new social services. Look at the encouragement to students to get involved with charities. Look at the things like the Supreme Council for Family Affairs that for the first time is looking into domestic violence. People are being valued because their issues are being addressed.
In return for relinquishing political rights, they are being given handouts, and the people are being silenced by handouts. And when the oil when all the oil prices
but the people are happy. According to the opinion polls, they're happy.
I'm not sure they are. I'm not sure they are.
You seem to want everything.
I don't want anything.
You've got happy people. You've got people who are optimistic about the future. You've got people who are well housed. You've got people who have access to education and healthcare. As has been pointed out already, their standard of living has risen. Their life expectancy has risen.
Have you looked at the public services?
What more do you want?
Have you looked at the public services?
You live longer and you have more money. How good can it get?
Have you looked at the public services? This is an oil. These are oil countries. Some of the public services are comparable to Africa. If the rain comes down, you will have the water coming to the houses. I'm surprised that the infrastructure and those projects that do not give
that
you
happens in Britain, but maybe we get more rain than you do.
Well,
Mansoor Al-Jamri, thank you very much indeed. Now let me ask Tarik Yousef, please, to speak against the motion.
The Gulf states, and since we're talking about states, let's focus on them, have demonstrated for a very long time a long-standing commitment to spending generously on their citizens at the expense of profit-making. How else can you justify the free housing, free healthcare, free education, guaranteed employment in the public sector, allowances for marriage, even subsidies given to the private sector? I think the biggest surprise for many of us, especially from outside the Gulf Arabs, is the emergence of the Gulf in the last 10 to 15 years. The advances in social indicators, the rapid economic modernization, especially relative to when these states became independent and started building themselves, and certainly compared to the rest of the Arab world. This much about the Gulf Arab states, I think, is undeniable and difficult to argue with. People vote with their feet. In a recent poll around the world of the destinations that people wanted to seek for relocation, for opportunity, some of the Arab states in the Gulf topped the 10 cities that were mentioned on that list, including Doha and Dubai. I think, to view it differently, the Gulf Arabs, and rightly so, care about both people and profits. I would want them to do so. Don't get me wrong. There are concerns, there are reservations, you've pointed them out, Sheikh Mohamed has admitted to them. But to state that profits or the profit motive is overriding is simply wrong. States have to make profit to invest it back, to redistribute it back, and governments, as such, do redistribute and do honor at least a big portion of these commitments.
All right, Tarik Yousef, thank you very much indeed. You said you're impressed by the spending. You said that the states spend generously on their citizens. Are you impressed by their spending on conventional weapons, for instance? The 10 billion or so that the UAE spent between 1998 and 2003, most of which is sitting out in the desert, gathering dust?
The Gulf states are extremely vulnerable. It doesn't take one looking back far in history to realize that only 15, 20 years ago, one neighboring country did invade another neighboring Gulf country, and within a matter of hours.
You're not suggesting that there's a reason for these purchases other than to make money through the deal?
I think there are reasons that have to do with making money, but there are legitimate security concerns that we cannot ignore.
So you have concerns about this kind of expenditure?
Absolutely.
You'd rather see the money spent on people?
I'd like to see it spent on people. At minimum, I'd like it to be more transparent. I'd like more accountability. But the end result is not going to be zero expenditures on military hardware, because there are serious, legitimate security concerns that smaller Gulf states face in a neighborhood where neighbors are arming up, another neighbor is building nuclear capabilities. Only 2 decades ago, one neighbor invaded another Gulf country. Until these security concerns are resolved, Gulf countries will spend, maybe they will overspend, and there will be wasteful spending as a result of this. But Tim, to suggest that this alone can wipe out the other side of the ledger.
It's an example, and it's a flagrant wastage, isn't it?
Absolutely, and some of us, by the way.
Which side do you want to be on this issue?
The origin,
do you want to change and sit over that side?
The origin of some of these bad deals and the abuses that took place actually came from the UK and the US.
Oh, we're to blame again.
Well, you're partly to blame. You should take responsibility.
All right, Tarik, Yousef, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.